What is going on, everybody? We are back. It is the Shop Podcast. How is everybody feeling this weekend, man? After a hiatus, I am feeling better. Thank you for you guys' well wishes from last week, man. It was amazing. I was feeling quite under the weather. So glad to see everyone here. I'm feeling a lot better, man. Once again, thank you for everyone's well wishes. But we got a lot to talk about, obviously, this week. Obviously, and we got a very, very special guest. He was supposed to be a guest on the show last week. Obviously, we missed it, but he is returning to the show this week, man. And we're gonna get things popping with that, man. But shout out to everybody in the chat. Run the likes up. We appreciate you. If you're new here, like the video, subscribe. If you enjoy the content, come hang out with us. We do this every single Saturday here at the Shop Podcast. But let's go ahead and just get to our guest, man, and then we'll get to the three horsemen over there. So we'll start with you, TKO Asante from the gaming circle, man. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Let everybody know where they can find you, how you been this week.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for the invite. And of course, if you're not feeling good, it's all good. We understand, and we're happy you're back doing this.
Thank you,
This is one
sir.
of my weekend podcasts. If I'm not on this side of the house, I'm on the other side, just in the chat, enjoying the conversation. So I appreciate the invite. Yeah, this weekend has been a very interesting week, as I'm sure everyone in here can attest. The gaming circle was a little crazy this afternoon. We had a little fun as well. We've had a couple shows with Boom. Shout out to Mr. Boomstick.
Nice. Shout out to Boom. Shout out to Everborn.
He is under 100 followers to get to 10K. If you have not
Really?
followed Double Barrel Gaming, let me be the one to tell you to please go do that. We want that to be accomplished before this weekend is out. So please, if you love his content, and I'm sure you do if you're here as well, because he's another one of those great members of the community. Please go out there and support that man. He's so close to 10K right now. We can all taste it. But yes, I appreciate the invite. I'm honored to be among such great panelists. All these gentlemen that I enjoy listening to on a weekly basis. So I'm here for the conversation. Let's go.
Man, let's dive right in, man. We got our compadres here, man. I miss you guys so much, chat. You guys are awesome. Shout out to Blue ATL. You guys are awesome, man. But we're going to dive in here, let some of my compadres here talk. But Fuzz, how you been, man? Busy week. Very, very busy week, man. How you been?
Oh, I've been pretty good, and man, I think the early part of this week was like in a state of disbelief. Like, wait, what? But man, it is. I think it's still setting in a little bit, but oh man, we got so much to talk about. And I'm gonna step aside so the other guys can do their intros. But man, I'm great. Glad to be here. Glad we have Kay Asante here as well. Man, this is going to be an interesting show.
Man, we got a whole lot to talk about, panel. Shout out to Blue, man, with the $10 super sticker, man. Thanks, Blue. Appreciate you, brother. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Once again, retweet the link. Let everybody know we're live on Twitter as well. We're live there, too, so you can watch the live feed if you'd like. Don't even got to come to YouTube. Super convenient. But let's go ahead and get to my other panel mates here. So, Pong, how you been, brother? I know it's been a busy week for you. You've been on any and everything. I mean, had some car trouble Tuesday. Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah. It was tough. It was tough. What a bad day to have car trouble on. Let me tell you.
Oh man, devastating, man, devastating.
Hey, look. First of all, PTK missed you. Missed you last night on Xbox
too,
Ultimate.
brother.
Yeah,
I know, man. Oh,
yeah, man. What's going on? Anything up? No.
Oh, here you go.
I told Mav I'd give you a little bit of a hard time. No.
I miss you, brother. I miss you.
I know. I miss you too, man. It's great to be here. This is what it's all about. Asante, always, brother. You know how much I love talking to you, sir. So thank you for joining us, especially on this week. This is a historic week for everybody. Missed you, Fuzzy. Missed you, Centurion. Missed you, chat. This is the 8th show of the week for me, including a 4-hour marathon with Steel this morning. So I have had a chance to talk about this. And like Fuzzy was saying, the interesting part is, even as the dust settles, I still find a new layer to think about when it comes to this deal and what it means, short-term, long-term, and everything in between. It's pretty crazy. This is game-changing, pun intended. This is something that none of us predicted. I don't think. Obviously, anything is possible. We've always said that anything was possible when it came to Xbox, Microsoft, and acquisition season. We talked about all the big dogs, everybody from Take-Two to WB. But Activision, with the situation they're in, the risk that it was, just never really thought that this was going to ever come about. And here we are. So incredible time to be here. This is why we love doing what we do. So let's get down to business, PTK, because this is a gigantic topic. So let's do it.
All right, man. Last but not least, Mr. Centurion, how you been, bro? Great video, by the way. If you guys haven't, please go check out my bro Centurion's YouTube channel, man. Centurion1307. Do yourself a favor, just dropped another great video, so please go watch it. How you been, brother?
Oh, thank you for the shout out. I'm doing good, but I'm also here to reveal to the other cast members that PTK Blam is pulling the wool over our eyes. We all know that Phil Spencer called him last Saturday and said, yo, don't do the show. I'm going to give you some awesome news like on Monday, Tuesday. Don't worry. It'll give you just hold off on doing your show. PTK was like, all right, Phil, I trust you. And, you know, but no, man, it's definitely great to be back. Great to be chatting with you guys. Great to be here once again with Kay Asante. It's time to talk about the crazy news that has taken place. I mean, I woke up that morning and my phone, like somebody actually texted me going, today's going to be a very salty day for a lot of fans of a certain console. And I was like, oh God, what'd they do? And I hit Google. First thing that popped up was this whole situation. And it just has been going from there. Even it made it even on the news, at least where I live. They brought it up on the news. Everybody is talking about this. I mean, like Microsoft bought Bethesda and it was crickets out of anybody but the internet. But this actually made the news on television. So yeah. I'm ready to discuss it.
Yeah, let's dive in, man. We got a whole lot to talk about. And as he said, this is legendary, landmark type, once and forever type news. So let's dive right in. Once again, chat, appreciate the support. Hit the like button if you guys are enjoying the content, man. We like to have fun. So let us know what's going on with you guys, chat. How you guys been feeling all week as well, man. We appreciate everybody in here, everybody watching us live too, man. Thank you guys so much. But let's dive in. So once again, it is no secret why we are all here. For one thing only, people. And that is for the biggest news, the biggest bomb drop that I've ever had in the history of gaming, in my opinion, as far as like me being alive and, you know, really, really big news. So obviously, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that Microsoft went out and purchased and acquired Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion.
They bought 10 Bethesdas.
Yeah, pretty much 10 Bethesdas at this particular point in time. But no,
we're talking about this. I thought we were talking about Hogwarts Legacy. Hold on.
No,
switching topics, man. But no, ultimately it's this huge. I woke up that morning, obviously, and was going to work, essentially got almost to work, and my head fell off. So, I don't know what you guys were doing. We'll start with that. I mean, kind of what was going on with you guys that morning, when you guys found out. We'll kind of start with that. So start with you, Asante, kind of what was going on that morning, what was happening with you when you found out?
So I woke up and every other morning during the week, I take my kids to school. I switch between my wife and I. So, as you do, you're on autopilot. Get the kids in the car. I got to make sure I'm in the car by 8:00 out there driving. I'm at my local stop sign. And usually that's where the school bus takes stops us for a while. So I'll just sit there for a moment. And usually I don't check Twitter or anything like that when I'm driving. So I have the notifications off, except for a few key folks. If it's from Boom or from one of my close brethren, it'll notify me. Otherwise, most tweets just go to silence and I'll deal with it later. Except for also P3. So I get a notification. I check at a stop sign, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this right now. It seems like something's weird. I don't understand. It looks very unusual. So I had to literally go and click into the mic. Oh, my mic is breaking up, huh? I hear my mic is breaking up. How does this sound now?
No, it's still bubbly.
Still bubbly.
It's bubbly. Oh, okay. Well, give me 1 minute. Let me see if I can switch it. Let me correct it. I'm sure I'll be able to.
He's drowning in all his excitement.
I am clearly drowning in my excitement.
There you go.
There you go. Beautiful now.
There you go.
Great now. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. See, I just needed to make a quick change. All right. So yeah, I'm at a stop sign. I see this notification. I think the first thing I think of is, oh, this has to be a hacked account or something like that, right? it looks like his account, but I will check, and I click into it, and I see that the Xbox Wire article was from 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Early, super
Yeah.
early.
And nobody saw or heard anything about it until P3 decided to tweet about it. So I am like flabbergasted, right? I got the kids in the car. I am like, the cartoon steam is rolling from my head. And I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, woosah, I'm driving. First thing, I call Mr. Everborn Saga. The man does not pick up the phone. I'm like, no, I must speak to someone. and then I pick up the phone and I call, shout out to Mr. Boomstick Excel. I call him up. He's also going through his morning ritual. He picks up the phone. I'm like, you're not yelling. It means you don't know what I know. What do you mean? What are you talking about? I'm like, are you sitting down? And I'm like, Activision Blizzard has been acquired by Microsoft. He's like, you're joking, right? You're absolutely kidding me. He's like, do you know how much flame? Yeah. He's like, you know how much flame I have thrown Activision's way? I don't know what to think right now.
Put him in a bind, man. He put him in a bind.
He was just like, he had to sit down for a moment. It was just absolutely nuts, and then your brain starts going a mile a minute. What does all of this mean? Right? And our initial thought on all of this was, oh, this is not great, because for the money they spent, they could have bought all these other things, right? Because and I've heard people have that take as well. But then you start thinking about because let's be honest, right? And I said this in the green room in a little while ago. Activision has done a very bad job of reminding people who they are.
Horrible.
Yeah, they are now. I call them the Call of Duty salt mines. They are now the salt mines of Call of Duty. Anyone that goes there for Call of Duty. Any developers that's there, is there to work in the salt mines. So all people think of is Call of Duty when they see Activision. But they used to be a great, they themselves are the result of a lot of consolidation. They have swallowed up a lot of AA's and AAA's over the years. So there's a lot of IP there and a lot of interesting things that can be done there. So after reading through Phil's initial comments, he mentions Guitar Hero. My heart just...
Hexen.
He mentions Hexen. He even said, Hexen, let's go, in an interview. I was like, what are we doing right now? This is absolutely... He literally said that as a quote. I'm like, wow, this man, he's out here doing some interesting things.
Guess who used to make those old Spider-Man games?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Shattered Dimensions, among others. Indeed. I say Raven Softworks. The team, and I've said this on other shows already, I will continue to reiterate that because I want people to play it. The team that has made, until Insomniac changes my mind, which I'm sure they will with their upcoming game, but until Insomniac does so, Raven Softworks holds the title as a team that has made the best Wolverine game known to man, and they will regulate it to what? The Call of Duty salt mines. So I'm so excited, and there's just so much more to say about this, but I will end this by saying, there's just so much ramifications to go on, and I'm hoping that folks can just dislocate the Call of Duty-ness of it all from the conversation for a bit, because yes, that has a lot of ramifications as well, and yes, that is important as well. That is today's talking points and bread and butter, but there's just so much behind it before they got to Call of Duty that needs to be really thought through.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's so many layers to this deal. There's so many. We're gonna get into as much as we possibly can tonight, Chad. You gotta bear with us, but this thing is like an onion. You gotta peel it back one layer at a time to get to everything. And it's still gonna be more questions and ansers. Absolutely.
It has a lot of tears in it too. So the onion thing is apt.
Oh man. but that was a perfect analogy. But either way, we're gonna get to the bottom of this either way. But yeah, Fuzz, where are we at on this, man? Obviously we were in the DMs. We got the tweet from Pong.
Yeah.
Pong. No, wait, was it you? No, it was Pong. I believe Pong. And
I can't even remember. I remember. See, there was an Xbox Wire one, and then there was the Xbox One itself.
I was late, so I don't know if I was the first or not.
You was okay. I think it might have been Fuzz, but either way, go ahead, Fuzz.
I just remember waking up, and it was like just a normal Tuesday. I gotta get the kids ready for school, and didn't expect any news. I mean, yeah, normally news is on like a Monday, but it was a holiday, so not really expecting anything on a Tuesday. And I think I was scrolling through Twitter as I'm
It
waiting
was
for the
Fuzz.
boys to get ready.
Fuzz the one that hit us up first. Yep.
Fuzz the one? Yeah, okay, it was
Yep,
Fuzz.
yep.
All right.
And I just remember scrolling through Twitter and I was like, wait a minute. There's a post from Xbox that says, what? No, this can't be right. Like, and I did the same double take. Like, is this a hacked account? Is this, somebody spoofing Xbox? I was like, there's no way. Because I instantly, I'm like, they're not going to spend, like, 'cause I didn't even remember what the market cap was. I'm like, that has to be like $60 billion. I'm like, no way. This didn't happen. this is a hack or something. So still scrolling through Twitter, and then I guess everybody's starting to realize, and then that's when I see Phil Spencer's tweet. I'm like, this is real. this isn't a joke or a spoof or anything. This is real. Like, they went and just bought the company, and I won't say I predicted anything, but it was like the weirdest thing came to mind about this. Like, back when the whole allegations first came up, with everything that was going on at Activision Blizzard, my experience in business, usually when stuff goes like or down like that, they usually look at an outside source for their replacement CEO down the road. And I had made a post way back when I was like, when Bobby Kotick's head rolls, it's going to be one of two people that they're going to headhunt to replace him. And I would pick one as Sarah Bond and the other one was Jade Raymond. And a lot of people were like, oh, you're stupid. There's no way they would leave. And I'm like, if they're making a couple million now and they have the opportunity to make a couple $100 million, yeah, I think anybody will leave where they're at. But aside from that, it was like, okay, well, if it's Jade Raymond, maybe they have to acquire her studio into the fold and then work it into some sort of, reimbursement scenario or some sort of thing to have it where she would be in charge, or Xbox is just going to definitely have to make sure that they hold on to Sarah and keep on promoting her within the company to keep her there, because I could totally see them trying to pick one of those two to lead the company, right the ship down the road. And when I made that prediction that it would be either Sarah Bond or Jade Raymond, it never crossed my mind that it would involve Microsoft actually acquiring Activision Blizzard for that to actually occur. Like that wasn't even a remote thought. I was like, oh man, they as much as a lot of people like Sarah Bond, myself included, as far as her position in Xbox, I was like, oh, it's going to be a sad day if she ever leaves, to go run that company type of thing. And here they are buying the company, basically ousting Bobby, which we'll get into a little bit more later. But it's like the way things were going before, like just days before that or hours before this whole announcement, it was like everybody was in agreement that, it didn't seem like anything was changing. They were moving slow. They were fighting stuff out in court, and it didn't seem like any of that situation was going to improve. I mean, what's her name? Jen O'Neill had already left at the end of the year because they couldn't even come to the agreement to pay her an equal salary. So it was just a matter of they weren't doing anything to fix their situation. And here you have Microsoft acquiring them, and pretty much that's the first major step in fixing the ship.
Yeah.
But man, it was still a state of disbelief. Hopped on with Boom and Pong and a few others to do like a couple of Our Thoughts podcasts earlier that day and stuff, or a little bit later on that day. But man, it was just something that never would have crossed my mind. Like if you would have told me a year ago, that 7.5 billion, that's chicken scratch compared to what they're going to spend next year type of deal, I would have laughed. I'd be like, yeah, I know they have 100 billion, but they're not going to spend that or a chunk of that in one swoop type of thing. It's Microsoft. They're going to divvy that up and acquire a few things here and there. They're not going to spend that kind of money on one place. But man, did they pick the what I would think in the grand scheme of things, the right place to spend it with, as far as if they're going to help fix the culture there, if they're going to help fix the endless salt mine, you said, of like Call of Duty. I think they're the ones, at least Microsoft in their current form, not their 80s 90s form, but their current form. I think they're more capable of being able to fix it. And for all of those that are like, oh, Microsoft bad and everything else, good type of deal. It's like, I can just imagine if it was Facebook/Meta that took over. Oh, I got to log into Facebook to play a Activision Blizzard game, or
Jesus
if
Christ. Shutters, right? Ugh. Jesus.
Tencent, it's like, oh, well, that might not necessarily be the best option. They're kind of like the question mark, because we haven't really seen their final form on what they're looking to do. But as far as if it was Apple, oh well, that would be locked behind Apple TV and to the iPhone as far as the App Store. So unless you're an iOS user, pretty much you can forget about anything Activision Blizzard, because they believe in locking stuff up. And Amazon would do the same as far as with their Prime stuff and Luna. So yeah, I don't know. Amazing news, but man, it took a while to kind of unpack and just, I guess, believe it or come to senses that this is actually happening. So, but that's all I got for now. I'll let some others speak on it, because that was an interesting morning.
Oh, absolutely. And I think once again, everybody chat, let us know too. What was going on with you guys when you guys heard? Shout out to Matt. Shout out to Siki. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Stanley in the chat. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Hit the like button if you guys are enjoying the show, enjoying the content. But let us know, chat, what was going on that morning with you guys? I'd like to know where you guys were at in the world when this bomb dropped. So we're going to actually throw this over to you, Pong. Just what was going on that morning, man? I know you said, unfortunately, we'll get to the car trouble here, but what was your morning like that day?
Yeah, so different than usual, because I was supposed to be at work. I was supposed to be in the office by 8:30. I was actually not going to be on Xbox Factor podcast. I had already let Boom know the night before and let the crew know that I had to get to the office at 8:30. So I was getting ready and getting ready to leave. And so I wasn't on my normal schedule of checking Twitter in the morning. So I got ready, started the car to warm it up. And so I was came back in the house, and I was like, okay, I got like 5 minutes to let the car warm up. And so I'm like, well, it's about 8:00. I'm like, this is the time the news usually drops. And the night before, people forget there was a shadow drop, Danganronpa, a great Japanese title that I love, that I've been
Game
calling
Pass,
for.
right?
Dropped into Game Pass. Total stealth drop from Spike Chunsoft. So I was all excited for that, because I've been calling for that series to come over. Now, they only dropped the first one, the anniversary edition, but it's a start. So I was all excited about that. So I'm like, well, I'm sure they're probably going to talk about that. Maybe there's some more stealth drops coming, or maybe some more surprises for Game Pass. So I'm like, it's 8:00. This is about the time news kind of starts kicking off or whatever else. So I log into Twitter, and it really started hitting as I went back through the timeline. It really started hitting about 7:30 or so. People really started taking notice. So all I saw was that when I went on Twitter, somebody had retweeted the Xbox Wire. And then right below that was somebody else posting the picture of Xbox plus Activision Blizzard with the Blizzard, with the Activision Blizzard titles, pictures all across the front. And I was like, you have got to be effing kidding me. I'm like, excuse me. First, I started looking for blue check marks, just like I'm like, are these real accounts? Is this real stuff happening? What is this? Sure enough, it's all legit. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I ran downstairs, logged into the computer, emailed my job, said, oh, car problems, man. Because I knew there was no way I was going to sit at work. Okay, there was no way on this type of day. I knew that Boom would be doing something, or somebody would be doing something that morning. So I was like, nope, no matter what, I'm going to be there for Xbox Factor podcast. This is just historic. So I got done with the email with the car problems. As sad as it was to do that, I got done with that. And then I sat here and I started reading, and I started going through the details. And I saw the number $68.7 billion. And I'm like,
crazy.
Yo. But then I started thinking about it. I started doing my research, started looking up. Just a year ago, Activision was over $100 a share. They're paying $95 a share. As much as as hard as it is to say, I started thinking Xbox got a steal. They got an absolute steal on a company that is in trouble. This was a move of opportunity. And like I said in the opening, Nobody really saw this. There's one guy I found on Twitter who had said this was going to happen in June. His name's Thomas. I don't know what his @ is. Some random dude on Twitter called this out in June. He retweeted his screenshot. He's got like, I don't know, 50 followers or something like that. But I found the one dude that did know. But, like Fuzzy said, we had talked about, well, Fuzzy's a little bit different because Fuzzy did have a great angle about Sarah Bond, and I did agree with him when he brought that up, that would be a great PR move for them if they were going to put Sarah Bond in charge after good old Snake Bobby Kotick was gone. But, we talked about it on Xbox Factor podcast during acquisition season and during the trouble that Activision was having when the lawsuits first came up. We had covered that, and somebody, I don't remember who it was on the panel, had jokingly thrown it out there. Do you think, Microsoft picks up Activision with all this trouble?
I think
and we all
right.
laughed,
Yeah.
we all laughed because it was kind of a joke, and I came in and as close as I got to it, I said never, but then I pulled back because again, I don't deal in absolutes, right? So I said, okay, look, it's not a never. I said, because anything is possible right now with Xbox and Microsoft. But I said, the only thing is that at some point in business, when a company is failing, the price becomes so good that you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a point of that, right? Even a company with as much going on as Activision Blizzard. And obviously that point was reached, right? And like I said, it's hard to say 68.7 billion, 69 billion if you count Bobby's payout at the end of the day. Is a steal. It's hard to say that, but it is $68.7 billion for what Activision Blizzard King could be is gigantic. And then, as I said in my opening, like wrapping your head around what just happened, what they acquired, what it means for the industry, what it means for Microsoft, Xbox, what it means for the future is so hard to do. Like I said, this is my 8th show this week. I've discussed this a lot, heard a lot of different takes on this, a lot of different perspectives, and I still find new layers to this whole thing because that's how big of deal this is. And obviously it goes well beyond Call of Duty. Call of Duty is the focus, right? Because it is one of the biggest franchises in the history of video games. Even on its down years like this year, it's still the #1 selling game on both Xbox and Sony. But at the same time, it involves so much more than this. This was the perfect storm. Yet again, this is another example of Xbox, for all the troubled past they've had, for everything that happened and them almost being out of this industry at one point, starting in 2017. This is another example of Phil and his team and the philosophy that they've created and all this stuff that they've done on the back end of things that's got them to this point. Again, created a situation where it was a perfect storm. Some people would call it luck, that they wind up acquiring this company that actually takes care of all 3 pillars that they've been talking about: console, xCloud, Game Pass. That's one. But they said the focus for 2022 was PC and mobile. They get one of the biggest names in the PC market. Yes, admittedly, on a downturn, not the same Blizzard they once were. World of Warcraft bleeding customers, but still one of the biggest names in the PC market with some of the biggest IP. One of those IP sitting on the sidelines right now that I guarantee you is coming back when this is all said and done in StarCraft. Then you also get King, that everybody laughs at, Candy Crush. In 2020 did $1.2 billion. 273 million people log into Candy Crush at least once a month still. They get all 3 pillars of what they're looking for in one deal. That is an amazing, amazing coincidence, or I shouldn't even say coincidence. It's an amazing fortune.
Yeah, this doesn't happen.
It doesn't
almost
happen
ever,
like
never.
this. And again, it took a lot of different things. And yes, of course, all the lawsuits, all the trouble, the stock bottoming out. They were over $100 a year ago. I think they were at like 68, 67, whatever it was at one point this year after the lawsuits came out and all the horrific news came out. It took that, but it also took Activision and Bobby Kotick and his crew running franchises into the ground over and over again, to the point where, again, Bobby came out and did an interview, and I know, he's a liar, he's all this thing, but I don't think he was lying per se. He tried to say, well, it wasn't all the trouble we're in. Well, okay, no, that was a major portion of it. But he went on to explain the business side of things, that they could not see a way forward. This yearly release of Call of Duty was not sustainable anymore. And they had gotten away from what made them great because they were under the pressure of the investors to show so much each year. And Call of Duty was failing because of it, because they just kept slamming it into the ground over and over again, forcing it out the door when it wasn't ready, porting all of their talent, 10,000 devs total between all those companies, but all of their Activision talent, putting them on Call of Duty just to make it work. That is not sustainable. And now Xbox, Microsoft, Phil, and we can say Microsoft now because Phil's got a new title as CEO of Microsoft Gaming.
I saw that.
That's huge. Microsoft Gaming. Again, we knew they were already a pillar of Microsoft Corp, but him getting that title, Microsoft Gaming, look out. There's only 3 CEOs in Microsoft. Satya, Phil, and the dude from LinkedIn. Those are the only 3 CEOs that they have. This is huge. And this makes a gigantic statement. They saw an opportunity. It's an opportunity not without risk. There is a ton of risk involved. But if they can go in, I've been saying this on every show. This is the ultimate house flipper episode right here. They're going to go in and have to clean house and fix it and rebuild it, basically from the ground up, except that they've got to still have a whole lot of talent sitting there. But if they do that, again, this was a steal and a half. This is the long game that Phil's been talking about. This is going to have effects 5, 10, 15, even 20 years down the road if they do this right. Rebuilding Activision Blizzard is going to be a huge moment for Xbox. So, yeah, this was historic. And I'm so glad that I have the opportunities to get with people like you, my brothers here, and my extended families on all my podcasts that are passionate about this and talk about this, because man, this is what we live for right here. Love it. Absolutely love it. What a great deal. What a great day. I was happy to have car problems, obviously. And I've been happy to sit around and talk about this all week. This is a moment that I won't forget, much like the Zenimax deal, but on another level. And really, the crazy part is, for me, the Zenimax deal, for me personally, is a bigger purchase, right? Because the titles, because the IP,
games,
right?
the IP,
Because of Todd Howard, because of the Elder Scrolls, because of Fallout. Those are actually more personal to me than the Call of Duties. I had sworn off Call of Duty just a couple weeks ago because of my problems with Modern Warfare, right? So for me, it's crazy, but the Zenimax deal, but this deal is just so historic that I will remember where I was, and to be able to be a part of it by talking about it on these shows is just so incredible. It's just so incredible.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. And it's one of them things, you wake up, you see it, and very much like the Zenimax, but that's the deal. You're in a fog. You just don't know what's going on. You're scrolling, you're looking, you're double, triple checking, and you're just making sure everything's actually accurate, and what's going on, what you're seeing with your eyes is actually happening. So man, it was insane. So let's go ahead and get to you, Centurion, because I do want to break this down a bit further, and I do want to give everybody time to get to their point. So what was going on that morning for you, Centurion?
Well, I'm a very light sleeper. I could hear my phone even when it's on vibrate, and I'm laying there. It's hella early in the morning. You keep hearing boom, 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 and I'm like, man, people are just conversating on social media today. And that's when I hear my actual text message go off on my phone, and it's my friend Broke Again, the Xbox fan who happens to had a lot of Xbox 360s break, so he calls himself Broke Again. He hits me up and says, today's going to be a very interesting day for PlayStation fans. And I'm just like staring at my phone. I'm like, Microsoft did something. So I go and I instantly go, rather than go to Google or anything like that. Honestly, I did look up at Google after, but if you want me to be truthful, the first thing I did was flip open Twitter because I already knew something was up because of all the vibrating that was coming from my phone. And that's when I open and see in the DM what Fuzzy had posted. And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, this totally changes things. This is going to be fun. Called a few friends, had a few friends call me at that time. It was definitely a very interesting morning. I'm excited about the whole premise of great games. Like, I mean, excuse me. I remember back in the PlayStation 1 days, the original PlayStation days, the whole reason why I wanted was an original PlayStation was to play Spyro the Dragon. I was a huge platformer fan when I was way younger, when that console came out, and I wanted to play Spyro. And now it's just crazy to sit back and think Activision is now trying to be acquired by Xbox. Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Tony Hawk Pro Skater. There is a number of games that I grew up and had a great time playing when I was way younger. And now it's good to see that Activision, because I was really concerned about the company. Fuzzy alluded to some of the stuff that I've read about and listened to my sources about. They put I forget her name, Jen O'Neill. Is that right, Fuzzy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Jen O'Neill and Mike Ibarra, the old Mike Ibarra from Xbox, were put in charge of the whole situation over there under Bobby Kotick and the executives. And even Mike Ibarra went with Jen O'Neill to talk to these executives about the pay disparity for Jen O'Neill, and they didn't listen. She put in her resignation, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa, wait a minute. We're willing to match your pay. And she said, you had your chance. You're done. We're done. She wanted to finish out the rest of 2021. I think she left right at the end of December. But I was shaking my head at that whole situation. I was like, are you kidding me? You're already being caught up for major situations and disparities between pay between male and female. It's like you guys, the woman that you put in charge, that you spotlighted for the whole situation you're going through, was paid less than the person that was her equal. Have you not learned from your mistakes? Apparently, Activision has been running down the road with their eyes completely closed, with their fingers in their ears, completely oblivious to what's going on. I said when this whole situation started with Activision, I forget where I said it, what show I said it on, but I even was making jokes that if it was the time to buy Activision, whether it was Xbox, any company at all, now would be the time. Because yes, Pong Soul was right. At the minute the Washington Post came out and told the whole hit piece on Bobby Kotick about how Bobby Kotick not only knew what was going on, but was almost complicit, because, I mean, it came out that he was threatening employees. He was trying to help employees that were caught up in the scandal, that had the fingers pointed at him, and he was trying to help save them and their jobs. And this whole hit piece from the Washington Post was pretty serious. And yeah, it tanked stocks down into about the low 60s per share. And right now, just the other day, I checked, they're back up at 82, but that was the day of purchase from Microsoft. But that's really interesting in the fact that Microsoft purchased them for $95 a share. And at that point, that means Microsoft not only got them at a deal, but they also didn't go for the throat. They wanted to make sure that obviously there was going to be some comfortableness from the actual investors with Activision, because, you know, you don't want them to feel like they're getting ripped off. So Microsoft said, look, we'll give you $95 billion. A little bit around $69 billion for Activision, which it means we're paying a fair market value for your company, even though you guys are in troubled waters and are actually worth less. But that being said, Microsoft, from the sources I listened to, they saved roughly around $30 to $31 billion, even at $95 a share. That's a huge amount of savings. Activision was actually worth a lot more money before this whole scandal thing broke out, the whole thing against Bobby Kotick got out, and everything else that was going on with Raven Software. Activision was worth a lot more money when you look at the IP that's under that umbrella with Call of Duty. So I'm actually really excited to see what Microsoft can do, because we've always heard great things of what it's like to be a developer under the Microsoft umbrella. You don't have the Microsoft executives going around like it's the military, making sure that you're doing what they want you to do. They want you to do what you're passionate about. And I think that's where I feel Phil Spencer is the best suit for trying to help stabilize Activision. He wants these developers to be passionate about what they do, because with passion you breed greatness. And I feel like we're going to see great things come out of Activision once this whole purchase does go through. It's not signed and sealed and delivered. And that's where at the same time, and I'm not saying anybody here or anybody I directly relate to in the community, but I see what's going on in the community. And we do need to understand that this deal is a lot more complicated than Bethesda by far. We're talking about a lot more money. A lot more money has a lot more eyes on it, a lot more scrutiny. There is going to be a lot of regulatory stuff that's going to come out from this. And I'm not saying that government regulators are going to come in and stop this whole deal, because we know Microsoft has a very good law team. I'm pretty sure they sat around, had discussions with the law team that they have. You're also able to go down to the Department of Justice and the other entities that help control things like antitrust and monopolies. You're able to say, hey, this is our intention. What do you think of this? And is it frowned upon? Is it you going to be okay with it? Now, they obviously have a time to let this all go through, where if the Department of Justice can do three things. One, they can try to put a lawsuit down on this and say it's antitrust and monopolistic and they got to stop. They can be completely silent. If they are completely silent and they run the clock down on the time frame that they have, because they have a certain amount of time to basically say yay or nay. But by not saying anything at all, it actually leaves the door open. When Facebook bought Instagram a couple years ago, the Department of Justice actually never gave them a yay or a nay. They actually let the clock run out on that whole time period of, being able to have it officially say, yes, you can do this, but they never said anything. Now, because they didn't say anything, we're seeing that just because they didn't say anything didn't mean it was okay. They just decided to let you do it to see feel it out. But now they're starting to see some of the things going on in Facebook, and the Department of Justice is actually wanting to rewind the clock and actually start digging into this purchase between Facebook and Instagram and actually look at some antitrust issues that they're finding with it. And even though this deal is years old, because they never say yay or nay, they're allowed to do this. Now, we're all hoping the Department of Justice is just going to come out and say, yes, you can go ahead and purchase Activision, and it's going to be absolutely glorious for everybody. If you want to know my absolute concern, I'm not really concerned about any government regulators mucking this up. Everybody's just going to try to obviously get the spotlight and get their 15 minutes of fame during this deal. For me, I'm more worried about the investors of Activision that are not going to be cool with that $30 billion that Microsoft saved. And some of them might have, I don't want to say, screw this whole thing up, but we might see some of the Activision investors that have huge amounts of stock in the company decide to come out and basically try to have their 2 cents to say in this whole situation, because, $30 billion, that's a lot of money. And that's where, at least the sources I listen to, they're more wondering what these investors are going to do with the fact that Microsoft made a $30 billion in savings with this company. That's where we have the long road ahead of us on this deal. The Bethesda deal was announced around fall of 2020.
Right. We gotta move on, man. We gotta move on. I don't mean to, but we gotta move on with it.
All right.
We gotta move on. So, no, but we just gotta get to the next topic. Sorry, I do apologize. But so no, we're happy about everything that's going on with this deal, at least to start with, and I do appreciate that. But we gotta jump to the next topic. So ultimately, what was going on with the deal. I want to get to you, okay, Asante, just essentially about what do you feel as far as like what's super important with the game. Like, what do you think as far as what's the most important aspect of this deal ultimately?
I mean, honestly, what I think is the most important aspect of this is all the potential, rewinding the clock a little bit, right? Because Activision, as we've spoken before about this, Activision used to be itself. Activision Blizzard itself is a lot of consolidation, right? They gobbled up a lot of AAA and AA studios in their day, so a lot of IPs have been laid dormant. I posted a tweet out there a couple of days ago, and it still has a mind of its own. I had to I had to mute the conversation because it was getting a little too much on the phone battery. Just the active game IPs that they have. I'm talking your Hearthstones. I'm talking your Gun, your Hexic. I'm talking your Prototypes and your Police Quests and Pitfall. And it blew up all over the place because everybody has something that they enjoy, right? And usually, whenever these deals happen, there are all these pie in the sky dreams that you want to have happen, but because the main guy in the conversation, that being Phil Spencer himself, has already signaled that is a part of the puzzle. It has opened the door to a lot of people really excited about where it could go. I think the very important part of this for me on this, and what makes me excited about this, is the difference between Activision and how they handled the profit margins and making sure that they're able to keep people happy versus the way Microsoft handles it is completely different. And they lean more heavily on the creative aspect of things. Hey, developer, what do you want to build? We just want to give you the money and allow you to go do what you want to do. Because they've tried hey, make this thing. And that's what happened to Lionhead. And they've publicly said how much of a black eye that was for them. So at this point, although we will see a lot of, cleaning up the house and going in there and really doing what they can to change the culture of the environment, I do see that this will be a time where you'll see them go, hey, as I brought before, Ravensoft, what do you guys feel like doing? Let's give you access to all these IPs, whether it be IPs that have come from the Activision Blizzard acquisition, or some of the IPs that have been lying dormant on Microsoft's side, right? Or Bethesda's side, or id's side, right? A lot of these ties bind. We just don't. We're not. As you said, there are layers to this thing. There's a lot more that can be done there. You will see. I think somebody on this panel recently just said something to the effect of StarCraft Ghosts was a really big thing that they were promoting heavily until that thing died. There's a universe where Coalition picks that up because that's very much Gears of War style, right? Third person StarCraft Ghosts could be rekindled. There's a world where Skylanders can be given new life. All these various platformers can actually be allowed to thrive. There's a world where Pitfall can be allowed to become the Uncharted competitor that it had the potential to be. Things like that. So to me, that's where that is where the excitement of it all lies, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of consternation in the market, a lot of consternation among the community about how good this is for gaming, how bad. All that is table stakes, because we all know what we've seen from Microsoft so far, and it's always been, some people think it's genuine, some people think it's disingenuous, but they still do it. They're obviously, we all know they are a business entity. They're there to separate you from your dough. But some people do it one way and Microsoft does it another way. And how Microsoft usually does it is they do it in the way of, hey, we will try to be straight with you, and we will let you know what we want, and you will give us your money because you will appreciate that. I for one appreciate that. So with them talking about Guitar Hero, them mentioning it in their press briefing, that tells you that there's a potential that Guitar Hero might come back, which I, for one, still have all my plastic instruments. I will not be ashamed in saying so. That my wife is not a gamer, but that was one game she and I played together, and that's why I've kept my plastic instruments. That's the way of pulling non-gamers into this ecosystem. So for me, there's a lot more to be discussed about it. I mean, I played Soldier of Fortune when I was young and shouldn't have played that game, and I still have a great place in my heart for that. There's just so many of them, right? But the fact that the man with the plan, the man at the top of the scale, right? And there is a conversation to be had about his new title, because that tells you something very interesting about what's about to happen there. But I think that may be another topic of conversation. But in general, my takeaway from all this is this will rekindle a lot of those exciting things back when creativity used to rule at Activision Blizzard. That may be given a chance to thrive again. And that's what excites me.
I think that's the single biggest thing for me is creativity being able to thrive. That cloud hovering over, it looks like Hogwarts. You remember Hogwarts when the bad guy took over? You know how it looked,
and every cloud got dark,
cloudy and dark, and everybody was walking in a straight line. Everything was gray and ugly. That's kind of how I envision Activision. It has been, kind of eating itself alive, so to speak, with Bobby Kotick. You can call him a tumor, call him whatever you want, but he's fostering a really bad culture for a very long time, essentially running it like a, personal boys club, essentially, if we're just being full unfiltered about it. But I do wholeheartedly agree about that. I think the creativity, freeing up the people that do what they do the best over there, allowing people to do other things outside.
Let Call of Duty take a break for
Let it take a break.
I'm one of those rare freaks who enjoys the campaign. I want to see some innovation in that. It shouldn't be so turnkey every year.
Yeah,
and I know that a lot of Call of Duty folks may not like that, but you have Warzone.
I was gonna say, they have a cushion now. Like Warzone is that because people are gonna continue to play Warzone year round, and the way Warzone set up being a battle royale, you don't need to do anything but update it every so often.
They can go very hard into Fortnite. The Fortnite style.
Very,
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Very, 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 and that works. It's clear it works. Obviously, it works. That's a great model. It works. Warzone is probably the second most played, I'd say, free to play after Fortnite, maybe. At this point, I know Halo's kind of hovering there too, but
Apex is also
Apex is also important. But they have a great business model, and they can cover those gaps. And because we used to get what was anybody remember the actual cycle time between Call of Duties? What did every 2 years before?
They used to be every 2 years, and then it switched to every year, and then it switched to every year.
It was something along those lines.
Yeah, once they added either Raven or they added, I know that they had one main developer, but then they added two more and then made it cyclical every single year because then they handed off, to another one. Yeah,
exactly, and it was exactly. So I think people are burnt out on that. But we're gonna get to our compadres here, man. We'll go with you, Pong. Once again, out of just the studios, Pong. Like obviously, Call of Duty is a big deal, but I know you broke it down earlier, just basically saying that like that's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
that's not even like ultimately what matters. Call of Duty is what's going to put the butts in seats. That's going to pay a majority of the bills, but there's a lot of meat on the bone.
Yeah,
so to speak. So
yeah, a ton. So I guess just Chaos Santa hit it on the head there. I think the biggest thing is the human element. As far as the devs, giving them a ray of hope, right? This is a company that a lot of these people have been stuck at because they have to. Again, not everybody has the ability to pick up their lives, whether they're single, whether they have families, whatever the case may be. A lot of them have to work for a company like this, and they may not have had anything to do with it. So many of these 10,000 employees are good people, and yet they've been affected by this. And Microsoft and Xbox coming in gives them hope. And then you've got Phil very early in this process. I thought that was very, very telling with these interviews coming out this quickly and him saying, just look at the IP, let's go. And talking about bringing back some of those games that he remembers as a kid and talking to the devs individually in those studios and asking them what they would like to do. Look, I'm sure a lot of them enjoy working on Call of Duty. I don't doubt it for a minute. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are passionate about Call of Duty. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are passionate about World of Warcraft. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of them that probably want to go do their own thing. I don't think Toys for Bob ever envisioned themselves becoming a support studio for Call of Duty, right? I don't think that was in their game plan. Sure, it was a job. Sure, they're getting paid. They're doing what they want, what they entered the industry to do, but it's not their games. It's not their forte, right? It's not
who proudly runs out of the salt mines and goes, I work at the salt mines.
Right, exactly, right? So I think that this ray of hope, unshackling these devs from Call of Duty, unshackling Activision itself from Call of Duty as a yearly game, is so important right now. And I think Phil understands that. And this always goes back to what I say. All these people, the clown show out here that say Phil needs to be fired, Phil needs to go, blah. Phil is a gamer at heart. I want nobody else running a company like Xbox except for somebody like Phil. Phil has a knack for business, obviously. He has a knack for leadership, without a doubt. But the dude is a gamer at heart. When he came out and talked about looking at those old IP and bringing some of them back, and specifically naming off something like Hexen, of all things, that shows you where he's at. That means he looks at Activision and Blizzard and King just like we all do. So all this talk that we're doing now, Phil knows that Call of Duty isn't what it once was. Phil knows that the sentiment is that Call of Duty should probably take a year or two off and maybe go back to a 2 or 3 year cycle. Phil understands that we want to see some of that old IP come back, and he understands that those devs never really want to be there working on Call of Duty. And he's going to give us all, including those devs, what we like, what we want, what we've asked for at the end of the day. And that's exciting to me. The possibility of unshackling all these people and letting them do what they do best, just like we've seen when they've made other acquisitions. We have now a history. This is the new Xbox, the new Microsoft. This is not the old days, even though people want to continuously bring that up. This is not them anymore. They're going to allow these studios to the freedom and just give them the resources. Phil even already said that. We're going to give them the resources, meaning he's going to infuse 10,000 employee workplace with even more people, just like they're doing right now. All their other studios are currently hiring. But again, resource as far as actual people, actual devs, is one of, if not the most rare resource right now in this industry. And they just acquired 10,000 of them, or, again, give or take. The point being is that we're going to get to see Tony Hawk come back. We get to see Guitar Hero come back. We get to see the StarCrafts come back. Maybe the StarCraft Ghost, like Kei Asante said, that game became vaporware. It was announced in 1999, and yet still people talk about it to this day. That's how big that game was hyped. They can do all of that, save the company, make the devs happy, just like they've done. Go listen to Tim Schafer being key number one. That man is one of the most creative people in the history of the video game industry. His team is one of the most creative in the industry, but they don't make big selling games and probably never will have a hit, like sales wise, like some of these big titles like Call of Duty. But at the end of the day, what did Microsoft do? Brought them underneath the umbrella and said, Tim, you and your team just go do what you do. And what did we get out of it? Game of the year contender in Psychonauts 2, right? That proof is in the pudding. It's already there for everybody to go see. And that's what he's going to do here with Activision, Blizzard, and King. And I can't wait to see what we get out of it. Let me tell you something. Raven is the first place I stop at, and I take them off if they don't want to be on Call of Duty anymore. Put them with id and let them go back to Hexen if they want to. Let them do whatever they want to. And then you start looking at the other franchises out there. Toys for Bob obviously is right next. You pull them off instantaneously and say, what do you want to do? Banjo-Kazooie? Do you want to do it? Let us know. Do you want to work on another Spyro? Let us know. Do you want to continue with Crash? Let us know. And then you work from there on down. I think that's the most exciting aspect. Nobody brings it up, but I sure hope to God, I posted on Twitter that Phil looks at True Crime and gets a studio working on True Crime. True Crime.
Brother, you have said the words. Yes, sir.
People
yes,
don't
sir.
remember. It was a ripoff of Grand Theft Auto, but it was one of the best ripoffs you could ever imagine.
Streets of New York and Streets of LA, for sure. Both of them. If
they bring that back and have the right studio work on it, you've got an exclusive GTA clone that will insulate you from any deal that Sony may try to make with Take-Two. I'm telling you, it would be a hit if they put the right studio on that. True Crime could come back, but there's a list. There's a long list of IP in here, but that's the best part about this. And I'll just add this last piece to this, since I was talking about the studios and the dev teams. Go look at the size of those dev teams. They are like 400 plus.
Yeah.
Xbox has like one team, right? The Halo team is about the only team that's over 400. They could split those dev teams into 2 and have them both working on IP. Most of those teams there are big enough to split into 2. Think about that pipeline. You let these people go do what they want to do. Let them have the creative freedom. Let them pick their projects, and you're going to turn this thing around faster than you can ever believe. You get that WoW team. You know WoW 2 was being worked on, and you know it was nixed because Activision didn't want to put in the money and the time into it. They needed just more expansions for WoW because they needed the investors happy. WoW 2's sitting there somewhere. You get them on that instantaneously. And anybody who doesn't want to work on it, you find a project for them. But you get WoW back to shape. You come out with a WoW 2 that brings back that old classic feel. All those people that bled over to Final Fantasy 14 are going to come back in droves because they've been waiting for a WoW again. They will come back in droves. You bring back StarCraft, that old team that left is going to find their way back home again to work on their baby. And you're going to hit that Eastern market because they're still playing competitive Warcraft in Korea to this day. That's how big it is over there. Again, this is a big pickup. So much potential. I just can't wait to see. We're not going to see it for a while down the road, but I don't care. This is a huge pickup.
Man, I mean, what more could you say? What more could you say about that? I mean, like you said, there's so much. It's a war chest, man. Like, they really got a bag full of toys, so to speak. So the interesting thing about this, and I want to point this out before I get over to you, Fuzz, is that I think ultimately, I think people are too wrapped up in the Call of Duty. I don't think Call of Duty is even the most important part of this. I know, Asante, you said that earlier. The more I think about it, Asante, the more and more I feel like Call of Duty is the most important part. I may have used the wrong word, but I just think that there's so much legacy there at Activision to be tapped into that's really going to be what buoys, what like highlights this in the next, like 3 to 4 to 5 years. That's what we're going to remember. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think bigger than even Call of Duty.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And people are a little short-sighted in just thinking Call of Duty when they see it, because as you would if you're a money man, right? That's where the bread is buttered today. But you have to look back. I said this on my show. I was one of those freaks that went into Wikipedia and literally pulled every game they made, 900 games since 1980, all the way back to ColecoVision, okay? And there are so many IPs in there. Even after you remove, even if you strip away all the license deals, they own the legacy franchise of Tenchu. They can't make new ones, but they own the legacy franchise, meaning day one, those games can come into Game Pass, and they can possibly make a remake of the first game in Unreal Engine or whatever engine they choose, because they have many of them. There's just so many options for them right now. Pong correctly pointed out True Crime. I'll point another one out. Gun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gun.
Yeah,
Gun.
Absolutely.
Somebody just mentioned that in the chat. Yep.
Gun
Yeah,
can be Red
Sean
Dead
Sue.
Redemption's Red Dead Redemption's competitor,
Yep.
In a real
Yep.
way, if you
Yep.
put enough love into that thing.
Yep.
Absolutely, fantastic game, a lot of potential, needed the budget, right? And now they have not only the budget, they also have the studio pedigree to be able to possibly get those done. So it's a very exciting time.
Super exciting. We're gonna go this over to you, Fuzz. And once again, we're diving into just more so the studios, the actual
Mhm.
acquisitions, the whole that essentially Microsoft Xbox brought in. So where you at just on the influence of Call of Duty and just everything that they were able to acquire all in one fell swoop?
Well, if we look back to the previous generation, the beginning of that generation, Microsoft was struggling with 5 studios to put out content. And now
So wait, so 2013.
yeah.
Mm.
We're looking at
2017 they had
insane.
5. 2017 they
That
had
is
5.
crazy.
yeah, well
That
2000
is
yeah.
That is crazy. That is insane.
So
That's crazy.
they go from 5 to now it amounts to at least 38 teams, although 38 studios, but it's like a lot of those studios have multiple teams. So we were talking not too long ago that it looks like Microsoft is working on getting like 4 games a year or like a game a quarter. They essentially now have the wherewithal to almost drop a game either every other month or almost every month.
Every month.
I mean, it's going to be some time before everything is up and going as far as being able to schedule that in and get games past prototyping and whatnot. But when this is all said and done, like let's say 5 years down the road after the acquisition, can you imagine just every month is a new either AA or AAA from a first party dev team. Every month is either new content, DLC expansions, or like an episode or episodic type add-on for some of the content that's already in Game Pass. So with them building this monster of a subscription service, the sheer number of teams that they have, the sheer, power, well, not power, but the like you said, the resources that they have now, it's unfathomable. It's hard to wrap your mind around just the amount of IP. Like Kay Asante was saying, 900 different IPs. Take away the license stuff, you're still somewhere in the 300 range. It's like
about there. Yep.
Yeah, it's. I mean, they could just basically put all the IPs in a hat and just have people pick out an IP as they go, and it's like that would be an unbelievable regiment of games just on a regular basis. But yeah, I think the big thing now is just to look at where Microsoft was as far back as 2017 to now. We now see a lot of the seriousness that they told us that they were serious about reinvesting in gaming, and a lot of people are like, oh, it's over, it's their budget's been cut and they're going to fold, and all the naysayers were celebrating the death of Xbox before it even really had a chance. And now with what they've been able to accomplish within these past couple of years, you can see that this is not just towards this current generation, but every generation going forward, as far as their investment in it. I think it's just so much potential, and at this point, seeing Phil get even elevated even higher, and realizing that the Microsoft brass see the potential in this industry. I mean, the sky's the limit at this point, but I think as gamers, just in general, we should be looking forward to all of the upcoming things that are going to be in the works. And a lot of times when Microsoft was looking to acquire studios, they always had something like in the oven type of deal. So I'm curious to see what other things may have already been in the oven that they may have seen behind closed doors type of deal. Things that might be less than a year or two away, as opposed to being, a fresh start 5 years from now type of deal.
Yeah, there was an article in 2019 that said Activision actually came out and said they were working on new IP, and that was in 2019. So you're exactly right.
Yeah. So it's just the potential, the excitement behind it. I can't wait. I mean, yes, Call of Duty is going to be the biggest, elephant in the room, and it's going to be a weird situation to tiptoe around. But everything else, I think I'm more enthused outside of Call of Duty of all the potential of IPs and just them actually getting back to making more than a couple of games type of deal.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. Before we get to Centurion here, I'm ecstatic. Once Phil mentioned some of those older IPs, and you start really going back, and you guys both did a quick, wiki, on some of the old IPs, and it really starts to become clear what's going on here. When you start putting the pieces together, in my opinion, that they were able to secure a little bit of everything. And this, once again, and I think you brought this up as well, since I believe you and Centurion Asante brought this up. This covers so much for Xbox all in one fell swoop. I don't think people get the compatibility here between what Xbox, where Xbox is going, and then what Activision, their services that they actually have to offer, the flexibility of the mobile with getting King. Having Call of Duty, which is on everything. You can almost play it on your refrigerator at this point. So just having the flexibility and utilizing those services. But let's go ahead and get it over to you, Centurion, get your opinion on, just some of the actual, actually the haul, what they were able to actually get between Call of Duty and some of the older IP. Like, what gets you the most excited?
Well, I like how you brought up the wiki part. If you go back and look at the games that Activision has been doing since the 90s, it was like they were releasing games after games after games, And then as the years go by, it's like almost those lists of games became more consolidated until about the year 2020, 21. You start seeing like they're pretty much like releasing mostly Call of Duty titles at this point. They used to release games hand over fist, everything from platformers to sports games. And I'm really excited for actually the just the breadth of the amount of games that we're going to get on the Xbox platform. We're going to see sports titles. Hopefully, I'm looking forward to probably a Pro Skater coming back. I always enjoyed playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I would love to see those games actually make a resurgence. I had a lot of fun with them. But let's also look at the big picture here. Everybody has always talked about Microsoft getting into doing a game based off of comic books. And I've never really I know there's studios that are probably more than qualified, but I don't know of a studio off the top of my head under the Microsoft umbrella before this purchase that actually had a pedigree of working on games that were related to the comic book industry.
I see where you're going with that.
So,
I like that angle.
Yeah, and that's where I really think that this is now, we now have studios under the Microsoft umbrella that have knowledge and experience working with a licensed IP that revolves around comic pulp culture and the movies. We've seen Spider-Man games and a whole breadth of different just comic book style games. That has me excited because this now is going to introduce the Rogue that we've all know that Sony has Marvel almost on lock over on their side. So I'm looking forward to what Microsoft could possibly do with this talent and getting them to work on a DC franchise, Dark Horse, any comic book IP that they can get their hands on. They have studios that can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, that would be another one to come back. I'm actually kind of sad that I missed Deadpool. Now, if I'm correct, I think the game has been delisted.
Yes, you're right.
And so that would be great to see studios like that again do games that they're not being kind of shoehorned to basically Call of Duty. I like how Asante called it Assault Mine because it really does feel like Assault Mine, and it's almost like the meat grinder. It could take a developer and make them almost lose their passion for wanting to develop games. And that's more of what I'm looking forward to, is bringing back the passion. I mean, I've seen a lot of good things about Overwatch, but Overwatch 2, in my opinion, is stuck in development hell right next to the next Diablo game. I hear a lot of people talk about Diablo games, and I hear them all wanting something to become of that franchise. And now hopefully this is going to kind of loosen some things up and basically bring Activision back to the glory it was. My wife loved playing Guitar Hero back in the day. We had good memories playing Guitar Hero. And yet again, that would be another thing that Microsoft could, because I feel like that was during the era when everybody was like crowded around their Wii at home and the family was coming together and they were all playing on these proverbials with Guitar Hero and Rock Band and all them. And now I really feel that Microsoft can also put that on an umbrella, is by actually having IPs that are more family oriented. So yeah, sky's the limit with this purchase with what they have.
On your point, Centurion, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Skylanders. Bro, they've got their family-friendly titles.
Oh,
They
yeah,
got the studio for Bob that can do it now as well. It's crazy.
We saw them dabble with the Crash Bandicoot 4, and that's why I was completely shocked that I was like, wow, they blew the dust off that IP. And I'm just curious now, does this mean we're going to see Spyro make a resurgence? I remember just back in the day, Spyro being almost like one of those games that you had to play.
Yeah, no, Spyro was an amazing game. And like you guys said, I think the interesting part of that is that these are all games that defined PlayStation. You know, these are all games that define PlayStation. Crash Bandicoot was literally their mascot.
Yep.
Literally was their mascot for PS1. I remember the commercial, him standing outside of Nintendo headquarters with all of those megaphones yelling in the commercial.
It gets worse.
Him getting
than
the
that.
tattoo.
Did you ever play Uncharted 4?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's literally in the game.
You literally play the first level of the very first Crash Bandicoot game.
Oh wow! I didn't even... That's hilarious. I didn't even catch that. Good catch. But I think you made a lot of great points. And we're gonna peel back another layer here that I think is very, very interesting. And we're gonna start with you, Asante, on this. So ultimately, we've gotten into just the overall picture of the situation. We've gotten into the studios that have been picked up and purchased. Now I want to dive into just a little bit about, long-term vision here. What are we looking at down the line? And obviously it's hard to read the tea leaves at this point because nothing is official. So anything, even Phil says, he has a lot on the line. Phil cannot speak up he has to speak
in any capacity. Yes,
in any capacity at all. That's $68 billion on the line if he says anything. Or
after tax, I suspect to be like 72, 73.
Yeah, put some tax on that thing. So at the end of the day, excluding that, just where are we at? What is the long play here? Actually, I'm super interested to hear your opinion on this. What's the long play? Because once again, I think you highlighted this earlier. People seem to be thinking very short term with this. Obviously, I think Game Pass is the engine.
Yep,
that's
pushing. He's already said that, right?
Yeah.
The day the deal closes, as many of these Activision games will be on Game Pass. So there's that, right? Yeah. It is funny. So okay, let us discuss the elephant in the room as far as exclusivity for a short bit, right? All of this stuff is very cyclical, as I can see it, right? The same thing happened when Bethesda was talked about, although as has been rightly pointed out by Centurion and a few other folks, it's a different deal because obviously this is Bethesda, times however many times, as many times. I'm not good at math, but it's a lot. A big amount, bigger than anybody thought possible, right? So the questions come up again, and some of the questions that some of the way he's answered things come up again. I personally think, based on the words that he has used, he said nothing that we didn't know before he used those words.
Exactly.
He said absolutely nothing before, and why? Who was he speaking to? Why was he saying that? He was speaking to investors that were tanking PlayStation stock, because the PlayStation stocks started dropping like a stone when this information came out.
$20 billion.
They lost $20 billion just off of one news story. Yes. And he wants PlayStation to stay strong, because what happened when Activision Blizzard got weak? Somebody bought them, right? You don't want somebody to buy Sony and then have the equilibrium of the gaming market changed again forever. Oh, now Apple is buying them, or somebody.
The Luna
else
Station sounds great.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, Fuzz! I'm telling you, Fuzz, we got to be careful with that energy, Fuzz.
Hilarious.
I look at Amazon buying them, but I'm figuring after 2023, like now, this whole deal might be like 2026.
Yeah,
but that's we'll get into that later.
See, but here's as to the long-term play. The thing I find quite interesting is his title. He is not CEO of Xbox. He is CEO of gaming at Microsoft. Do you know what that tells you? That tells you that Microsoft will not only have Xbox as part of its gaming arm anymore, right? And he is now managing, he's the tip of the spear when it comes to the gaming arm, which tells you there will be a new head of Xbox, because that was his old job, right? There will be a new head of Xbox. And I suspect, and this obviously we're in tea leaf reading time right now, but based on the new title, it does not have the word Xbox in it. So if we suspect there's a world where they were grooming Sarah Bond to take over something, she might be the new head of Xbox.
She might
while
be.
he is CEO of gaming, right? Because then you also have Activision, which is a different arm, right? And that speaks to the future of all this. You have Activision, which is a different arm. I suspect it will not be Activision, Blizzard, King, all those three in one. I suspect it'll be Activision, one, Blizzard, another, and King, the third. Now, King is a monster in mobile gaming. Yeah. If you don't spend much time in mobile gaming, you think, one of my good friends, I actually interviewed him for my show early on. He was the executive producer of Candy Crush at a time. He worked at King. He worked for them, and he used to laugh at me every time I was talking. I have arguments with him about, Call of Duty making so much money. He's like, yeah, Call of Duty makes a lot of money. Candy Crush, like, completely reigns all over all of that. They print money, and Candy Crush is just one of the many entities that makes money there. There are so many other entities within King that people play that make that, like, it rains money in that mobile space. So they're going to separate all of those out, right? So because of that, there's a world, and now I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, and you'll understand what I mean in a second. There's nothing that Phil Spencer said should be taken seriously. Oh,
At
now
all.
they're going to keep PlayStation. Nothing. Why? Because what he's saying is true. He's not taking anything away. What is on there right now? Warzone. There's a world where Warzone stays on there. Like me personally, I envision a world where they really take Warzone to a serious place to where it becomes like a Fortnite, where huge events happen, where iterations happen, all within that Warzone world, right? And they spend a lot more resources in that Warzone world to keep fresh things happening as a platform, as a quote-unquote metaverse. Oh, I need to throw up. I just said that word. And I'm a huge VR head, so it insults me every time anybody says metaverse. But okay, there's a world where they do that. And in doing that, they put Call of Duty, the console campaign thing, to rest for some time, right? They'll never take that from PlayStation. So that then fulfills the words that he was saying. There's a world where they can go, yeah, the contractual obligations that we have with PlayStation, 5 years or whatever the contractual obligations is. Maybe we'll allow them to market Warzone. And there's your contractual obligation met. We don't have to make another console Call of Duty. Maybe we add a DLC huge situation to Warzone as an event and they get to market that, right? The logistics are there. That can be worked out, right? But that makes people feel good on the PlayStation side. Those with their on Xbox side, those with who are looking at the lists and going, oh, they're keeping it exclusive or not. But at the same time, since he is now CEO of gaming at Microsoft, not Xbox, there's another world where Xbox just continues to get to do its Xbox stuff. But Activision has nothing to do with that. That's a different arm. So they can continue to be a multi-platform player in the space because they all go up to the CEO. It's not Xbox literally dictating terms. Obviously, Xbox will get top billing, right? Because they want to make sure that ultimately Game Pass is that
you got to feed the cow.
I can see a world, even in the world where World of Warcraft is bleeding subscribers and bleeding players left and right. Their numbers, their count is monstrous. It's still in the hundreds, like 100 million players, like subscribers, people who don't let their subscription lapse, but they're just not playing it. So it's still being paid for. And then every time there's a new DLC or a new event, they'll come back in for a while, right? So imagine a world where that WoW subscriber base all of a sudden gets integrated with the Game Pass subscriber base. Overnight, you get 100 million people that are now technically Game Pass subscribers because they incentivize or they integrate them. Because he is the CEO of gaming at Microsoft, it means not everything funnels through Xbox. Xbox is one of the gaming arms at Microsoft. But because they own so many huge like conglomerates within the gaming space, they can keep those other entities separate and still function that way, which means we don't know what the future holds. His title is a very interesting indicator of where we're going, right? Activision can continue to be a multi-platform entity, even though it's under the Microsoft umbrella, while Xbox is still Xbox, right? And now we have Xbox Game Studios, Bethesda's within Xbox Game Studios, all that can still be there. King can become the mobile powerhouse, right? Where maybe you'll get your Halo mobile game that you've been wanting, or all these other crazy, interesting mobile games that we've been asking for, right? Because they have experts in mobile gaming there, because that entity is a money-making, like, bar none, the top tier money-making entity in mobile, one of them, right? So as soon as I heard his title, it just kind of cued me, because if that title had not been released, if that they didn't say that, all of this other stuff about we intend to keep, we desire, all this, I'd be like, ha, 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 let's just keep it moving. Because all of that is just legalese. All of that is just trying to keep the status quo. They don't want to bleed money from PlayStation, because they don't want PlayStation down. If PlayStation's down, all of a sudden the regulatory bodies are looking even closely at them. Because even though they're in third place, we all know that if PlayStation is the lion in the jungle, Microsoft with their resources is the jungle. Everyone knows this, right? Everyone knows this. So you want the lion still prowling around, so you can say, look, he's king. even though we are the jungle, right? So they don't want to crush Xbox, like PlayStation wants to crush Xbox. PlayStation, if they had the opportunity, oh yeah, they would crush Xbox. But Xbox doesn't want that, because then they can't purchase anymore. Then they can't hide behind, that entity anymore and go, look, we're being competitive rather than we're taking over. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a good
his
point.
title is very interesting, and I'm just looking at it with the side eye, seeing where that will go, because that title is very telling.
No, I agree. And I didn't catch. That was one thing I didn't catch right away, chat too. I didn't see that right away, and it was actually brought up later on. I was watching one of the 2,000 videos I've seen on this topic this week. And somebody brought it up. They highlighted it, and I was like, wow, you know what? That does make sense. They didn't say, head of Xbox, or they said CEO of Microsoft Gaming, which is very, very interesting. So we'll go ahead and move on. We'll throw this over to you, Pong. I'm curious to get your opinion on all of this. Obviously, we've talked about this at great length. Like you said, this is your 8th show this week, but where are we at in the long run? Because I know you've always been the golden age of gaming. This fits right in line with that.
Yeah, it sure does. Like I said, the ripple effect that this is going to have 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road is something that people are going to be looking at for a very, very long time. And the crystal ball and peering into speculation town on where this actually leads is quite interesting, because, again, they picked up all 3 pillars that they needed. Console, Game Pass, PC, and mobile, along with xCloud. Obviously, it's going to bolster that as well. But this is a global purchase. And all you got to do is listen to Satya talk about it when they had their conference call. And if you go back and listen to that or read through it, Satya brings up entertainment content across a global market multiple times. He also mentions gaming as obviously the main right now focal point. But with this, they can reach so many more people. And again, we've talked about it so many times here, PTK, and anybody that's been listening to shows like ours understands that when they said 2 to 3 billion people they want to reach, they're not joking. Okay, that's a goal of theirs. And the mobile market is where the mobile and PC market are 2 of the biggest untapped places to reach. And we've seen them, make inroads on PC. They picked up some mobile game developers, AlphaDog, obviously with Zenimax deal. But this one right here, acquiring King. King is bigger than Zynga, which Take-Two just paid $12 billion for. Again, as I stated before, 273 million people log into Candy Crush at least once a month. $273 million.
Minecraft is at like 100 million.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Now think about what they currently have. They've got a subscription model. What happens if they add Game Pass Mobile? What happens if they throw out a $5 to $8 a month Game Pass Mobile version? Where all those grandmas, where all those, whoever's touching Candy Crush at this point, those 273 million, they have to pay for energy, right? They have to pay for that stuff. Once they throw out a Game Pass model where no longer you just subscribe each month and you can go into Candy Crush all you want and play all you want. Once they start throwing other games in there, and all of a sudden those people say, God, this Game Pass thing's really cool. This is Microsoft. This is Xbox. What else they got? And they start looking into what's available on other versions of Game Pass, right? And all of a sudden now that subscriber base grows and grows and grows and grows, and your reach is global. That's what they're looking at. The metaverse has been brought up so much. I hate the word. But again, Satya used it so many times when discussing this deal. And there's so many different versions of the metaverse, right? It means so many different things to different people. Like some people, like we instantly think of VR. We think of Ready Player One. We think of all this craziness, right? But then you got to kind of sit back and say, okay, what does Satya mean? What does Microsoft mean with the metaverse? Because they're not even doing VR right now, right? They're not even in that space at this moment outside of some commercial usage, right? And some military usage. They've worked on AR and VR. So what does that mean to them? Well, that means just one connected universe. And we've heard this so many times where all of your content, all of your entertainment content is available no matter what device, where you are in the world. And that's what they're trying to do here, is create a connected universe. And all of this leads to that, this push to this global metaverse, where if you are in the Xbox ecosystem, if you turn on a TV, you can access it. If you have a phone in your hands, you can access it. If you're on a PC, you can access it. If you have a console, you can access it. Wherever you're at, you're going to be able to hop into that ecosystem, play games. Down the road, maybe there's movies, maybe there's TV, maybe there's music, whatever this evolves into. That's what they want. And this purchase right here, looking down the road, is a gateway to that promised land that they've been talking about of 2 to 3 billion people. It's huge. Like I said,
real quick, a fun fact.
Yeah.
Before people started using metaverse interchangeably, I read a book a long time ago. One of my favorite books, Snow Crash by
Snow
Neil
Crash.
Stephenson.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say it.
That is where metaverse came from.
That's where Snow Crash is a fantastic book as far as
it makes you a VR lover when you read metaverse.
Absolutely, Asante. I knew you were going to say it the minute you said. I knew what you were going with. So yeah, I think that is the ultimate goal. They've already stated their ultimate goal, right? And this is, something that people fear, is that Game Pass and this ecosystem becomes so big and so powerful that really nobody can catch up. And really they're going to dictate the terms, especially, as we look now in the gaming industry as a whole. And that's where they want to be. They're putting themselves in that position because they have seen the future, and the future is streaming. The future is subscription service. The future is making it accessible to as many people as possible, and making that accessibility as easy for people as possible, so that when they invest in this whole deal, that they know that wherever they are, whether they're visiting a friend, whether they're flying on a plane, whether they're sitting in a hotel room, whether they're sitting on their couch at home, that they can instantly pop in to an Xbox or Game Pass app, whatever you want to say at the time, and Microsoft app. Let's just call it a Microsoft app, and have all their pieces of content right there available for them to play wherever they're at, whatever they're doing. And I think that's what this purchase is really about. And that's why Phil stressed, this is not the short term. This is the long term. And just to Kay Asante's point about Call of Duty and the exclusivity, I think that's why Call of Duty becomes less, it's obviously less important than what it was to Activision, right? It's not the be all end all for Microsoft and Xbox. Yeah, it's a huge piece, but if it goes to a 2-year, 3-year cycle, and Warzone is your continuous games as a service moneymaker, well, then the main franchise becomes even less important. And if it stays multi-plat, if that's what gets this deal through, and again, at the end of the day, I say it's most likely that Call of Duty, after the contractual deals run out, that they do follow suit like they did with Bethesda. I think that's the most likely scenario. However, as a bargaining chip, I don't think they're afraid to lose that. I think they will use that, whether the regulatory commission goes way out of bounds with this one, which they may set precedence with this one. And if they require that, Microsoft will give that up. And if they don't give it up there, and they use it, PlayStation, to cut down on the crossplay fees that Sony charges, and get rid of those, and maybe cut down on the fees that Sony takes out for microtransactions and all that kind of stuff. If they have to use that as a bargaining chip there, I think they would. And I think that people shouldn't be surprised if we see Call of Duty, because it's possible. It's possible. And Phil's statement, make no mistake, that was not Phil speaking on Twitter. That's $1,000 hour attorneys, okay? They poured over that statement. They basically wrote every word of that statement with a lot of outs, right? But at the end of the day, I can see a world where Kumbaya Phil, the old good guy Phil, and the rest of the group really do look at Call of Duty more as a platform like Minecraft. And I know it was written in the contract that Minecraft, so I'm just saying, comparatively speaking, when you're looking at things, Call of Duty could be considered more of a platform like Minecraft than it is an actual just individual IP, like a Bethesda title, like an Elder Scrolls that comes out once every 8 years or whatever the case is. So I think there is a possibility. And I don't want people to be surprised if it happens, but it's not a big loss. They have already gained the biggest advantage they ever could with Call of Duty being underneath their umbrella. Sony can't cut deals anymore to get Call of Duty on their subscription service, Spartacus. They're not going to be able to cut those deals anymore for marketing
That's
rights.
crazy.
They have taken that advantage completely away from Sony already. And that's a huge, huge thing. No matter what, at the end of the day, no matter if it stays multi-plat or not, they can't make those deals anymore. And so that's where I see the future leading. Again, the ripple effect, the stuff we're probably not even thinking about that we're going to see pop up here in the next 5, 10, 15 years. But right now, that's where I see it happen.
You know what, Pong? I will just drop a little bit of difference in here and say, if they wanted to fight that, they have a lot of leverage to do so. But absolutely. I see a world where they can be magnanimous and go, if Call of Duty has to be the sacrificial lamb, we're fine because we're getting a lot more. But they have a lot of ammunition in their gun if they want to fight that, because their competitor has literally spent their entire existence for the past couple of years making sure they crush the competition. And in doing so, they're giving Microsoft, a lot of talking points in the board in the law.
And that's the crazy part about it when you really start to think about, like, this is an immediate flip. And this flip the table, turn everything on its head, essentially, because like you said, they do have a Game Pass quote unquote rival that they have to announce at some point, that they plan on announcing at some point. You cannot, and I mean, maybe they get a chance to talk about Call of Duty because maybe there's some pre-existing deals. Maybe it's already part of what they had planned on doing previously. But in the long run, you do not get Call of Duty. You don't.
And they would have made that play, right?
Absolutely.
Activision was one of their partners, right? They've had the marketing deal for over 10 years. They would have gone for that play for sure.
Absolutely.
But those who make a point that, this will crush PlayStation, or if they remove it, that is absolutely wrong. Because the difference between PlayStation and Activision is huge. PlayStation, when their back is to the wall, much like Microsoft, they innovate. So this might actually be the greatest thing for them. There's been rumor and speculation that Jim Ryan and them heard about this deal right when we all did. Even after everything that Phil Spencer has said, I bet that they're now looking at a world where they have to unshackle themselves from Call of Duty, because even if they continue the marketing rights, you're marketing somebody else's product. You're marketing your competitor's product at this point, right?
You're marketing Game Pass at that point.
That's right. And darn well that even if their marketing deal is for 5 years or whatever, there will be the word Game Pass and Microsoft all over that thing. You don't want that on your PlayStation. So they are now sitting in the boardroom going, is this what will lead us to bring SOCOM back? Which will work great for us gamers, right?
Yeah.
So I don't see them going, oh, woe is me. We've lost our money bag and now we're going to get bought up by someone. This will put them in a position to innovate and give us a new, more rejuvenated PlayStation. Hopefully not so aggressive, but more in the creative space where people genuinely will like what they do.
They got aces. They got aces.
Yeah, they got. I was gonna say, because they've talked about investing heavily in multiplayer games. They got at least 2 or 3 exclusive that we know of that are being currently worked on by various studios. So I think that they were already going that direction. Once again, this just may be the that kick. Over the edge. To
Kay Asante's point, the king will, and I put this in a tweet, so I'm just going to say it again. The king will not abdicate the throne without
not easily.
No,
okay?
absolutely
They're not going to they're not going to roll over for Xbox just because they spent $70 billion on Activision.
So I want to bring up a point that I brought pregame as well, and everybody here on this panel can answer this. And I asked Kay Asante this: what does Sony have that is more valuable than any of these acquisition deals? What does Sony and Nintendo have that's more valuable than?
They have the brand loyalty.
They have the
brand
loyalty.
The zeitgeist. Yes.
How much? So I want to ask you, panel, how much do you think it costs? Like, how much do you think Nintendo's loyalty is worth? Like, how much can you put a price on the way people feel about Nintendo, the way people feel about Sony? How much do you think that's worth?
Yeah.
You think it's worth $60 billion? It's probably worth 10 times more than that.
For many people, PlayStation is the name of gaming. Get off your PlayStation, even though you're playing an Xbox. It is the name of gaming. Yes.
You can't buy that. You can't buy that. So at the end of the day, that's something that Sony does have, something that they had. That's a feather in their cap. That's an advantage that Sony has at this point. As great as Xbox is, we all love Xbox, but there's something about PlayStation that people stick to. There's something about that brand. Same thing with Nintendo. They can do no wrong. And that is priceless in my opinion. So I want to make sure I highlight that, because we're talking about a lot of various different things and important aspects of this deal overall. I think that one thing cannot be understated, and that's why I don't jump off the ledge when these things happen. This is necessary for Xbox, to go where they're trying to go and take the industry. So let's go ahead and throw this over to you, Fuzz. Get your opinion on this, bro. Just about the long run. We talked about this the day it happened. I think you were maybe the only person that I actually had a conversation with that day, but you mentioned some very, very interesting things that I'm sure you're gonna bring up.
Well, a long time ago, I went out on a limb predicting that this generation is going to be weird for PlayStation. I didn't think it was going to be quite like another PS3 era, but I knew that there was some differences compared to the PS4 era. It just seemed like this was a different Sony to some extent. And I made that long shot prediction that it's like, oh, at some point Amazon is probably going to come in there and swoop them up. Like, I don't know if many people know, years ago Apple had come seriously close to acquiring Sony, primarily because they were the providers of the cameras for the iPhone, and Apple also wanted to expand their business, like TVs. What better way to make an Apple TV, not the little box, but the actual TV or television itself, than to just rebrand a Sony TV? And at the time, I don't think Sony was very interested in, selling, everything. I think they were more like, yeah, you could kind of take, this small piece here and this small piece here, but that's about it, because they had a lot of debt that they wanted to offload. And Apple wasn't about it. It was like all or nothing type of deal. Well, fast forward to today, PlayStation's not in trouble by any means, but I think it is going to be a state of consolidation going forward. Even though Google, they still have the wherewithal and cash to be able to participate, it doesn't seem like they're as interested. The $7.5 billion that Microsoft spent, made them a little bit gun shy. So Google, unless they reevaluate this after everything is said and done and a better roadmap is laid out, I don't foresee them ever really being an issue to re-enter. As far as Apple and Sony, I don't foresee Apple wanting to bother with Sony at this point. I don't even think they use their cameras anymore for the iPhone. I think they've pretty much, Apple has gone to making its own chipset and a lot of its own other, proprietary parts and things like that for its hardware, whether it be for the iPad, the iPhone, or their Macs, MacBooks, MacBook Airs, and whatnot. But Amazon, they're that big giant that likes being a market disruptor. And yeah, to some extent, Microsoft is kind of being a market disruptor with this acquisition. But I just see Amazon kind of standing on the sideline. Like, if if the Bethesda purchase made Google flinch, let's see if this $70 billion purchase makes Amazon flinch. Well, it doesn't look like they're flinching at all. Doesn't seem like they even are phased by it. And if anything, they're probably like, can we do this? Oh yeah, we have a war chest just like that. Yeah, we could probably do this. So if things start going in a direction where Sony does start losing more value, they might be the ones to say, you know what, we could definitely use Sony Pictures in Prime, streaming service. And we're working on the whole gaming thing, but we haven't really figured out how to, benefit between Twitch and Luna. But if we have this other box, it's kind of like an all-in-one for all of those, that's already established, and we can just come in there and purchase it. Yeah, they would be all about it. So I don't think it's like, originally I thought the plan would be a little bit sooner, but I think this will postpone, instead of it being like a late 2023. I think, depending on what the landscape looks like by 2026, I think Amazon does dip a bigger toe in the whole picture. What Sony's going to be like in the meantime, that I do not know. Like, my biggest thing is, I want to see, much like what Asante and Pong had said earlier, I want to see them, kind of use some of the creativity that they did towards the later part of the PS3 to kind of pull themselves out of a rut. Not that they're in a rut, but when Sony's creative, we get rewarded amazingly with
Yeah,
their games
true.
or things that they come about that, just seem to, deliver what we hadn't either expected or didn't know that we wanted type of deal. So them kind of on their heels to some extent. Not not saying that this is a huge hit or anything like that to them, but as you can see by their statement, their very cold statement of we expect Microsoft to, fulfill all previous obligations. It just seems like yeah, they probably had some long night meetings afterwards as far as like, okay, well, we already had this, and this planned as far as our release regimen. Let's take a deeper look. Like you said, if Call of Duty is now going to be, whether it's exclusive, non-exclusive, whatever the case is, they're going to have to kind of distance themselves from it to some extent. That definitely puts them in a more creative mode as far as what we could expect from them in the near future. And if it means a SOCOM, I'm all for it. But I think the grand scheme of things on Microsoft's end, Kay Asante definitely touched on it with um, Phil Spencer's new role as far as being CEO of gaming, which I just don't know what that entails for the future. I know there's been some rumors and rumblings that we kind of talk about in green rooms for different podcasts as far as this possible rumor that Microsoft is looking to get in more involved in entertainment in general. Um, I wonder if that somehow is going to play into this as far as that role. But yeah, it's hard to say what it looks like as far as the future, other than this is a huge get, and that in a couple of years we'll definitely, as far as subscribers to Game Pass, will see the benefits of it. Um, I think the value proposition that Game Pass offers will be that much more enticing. But yeah, as far as the landscape 3 years from now, I think we either have not necessarily a neutered Sony, but I think we have a Sony that walks a little bit differently. Maybe they don't try to be the disruptor as much to squash Xbox, just because, excuse me, that the repercussions that could come about as far as somebody that they can't possibly match on a spending end of things. But definitely makes for an interesting next few years. But I just look forward to Game Pass being even more enticing, and
Yeah,
hopefully Sony going back to its creative mode as far as more games that we've been asking for type of thing.
no,
So,
absolutely.
so real quick question for me:
Mhm.
Does this change the equation for Spartacus having day and date sooner?
That's a great. So I know Fuzz, you brought that up, and I want to dive into this just a little bit before we get to you, Centurion. I ain't forgot about you, brother. Um, that's a great damn question, because I think it changes Spartacus drastically. I think it changes the way that they have to present it as well.
Mhm.
Um, I think I don't know if this forces them to do day and date. But I do think it definitely incentivizes that, because now you don't, and once again, Pong, you brought this up, you don't have that long term, COD to kind of, because COD is the biggest game on their platform, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
The most people play COD on PlayStation. So like you don't have you don't have that safety net. So the strategy changes going forward, because I absolutely think that they would have used that marketing deal that they have to leverage that somehow in Spartacus.
Yeah.
So I
And
don't know you guys' opinion, but go ahead.
well, no, it's funny because it sheds a little light why Phil came out with those comments and stated that he expected them to go day and date. Now that sheds a little light why Phil was so confident in that and coming out with that quote, knowing full
He
well that
did.
this
You're
deal was going to come
right.
through.
You're right.
Yeah,
You did say that. Yeah, he
right.
did say that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing to take a look at is their PC porting aspect. I think I'm not sure about the day and date, although it now seems like it would make much more sense. But I think they need to close that window or that gap as far as for the PC releases. And I know there's a rampant fan base that are totally opposed to that, which boggles my mind, as if by having it on PC the same date, it somehow devalues the console, or it would make the console useless. And all you have to do is look at how Xbox has the PC games day and date with console games, and with the exception of those that are actual PC centric games to start, they still sell every Xbox Series X they make. They still are flying off the shelves. So if PC was to kill a console because it's coming out the same date, then why are people buying Xboxes then? It boggles my mind, that thought process. So
Thank God Sony's not run by the fanboys, right, folks?
exactly.
They can run a damn lemonade stand. That's what I say. It's just ridiculous. Like, you're supposed to tell $1 billion company what it's supposed to do. But
Yeah.
another thing I wanted to highlight too before we get, because I want to make sure we get to Centurion here. But another thing I wanted to highlight was that, like, going forward, this is super, super interesting, and this is why, like, this deal is so crazy to me, because, like, having Halo, having Call of Duty under the same roof, like, what does this do for, other shooters now? What does this do for Battlefield going forward? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does this, can they influence, Battlefield? Are they able to, like, what does this leave a lot of other companies now, that utilize that holiday period of time? You know what I mean? Like, because ultimately Call of Duty, that's Call of Duty's time of year just about every single year. So, like, what does this squeeze out maybe some other options, or how does DICE feel about this going forward? I always essentially what I'm asking is, like, the fallout, Asante, like, how are these other companies going to move around? How is EA going to move around at this point?
Though, with the exception of PlayStation, who's always been a very antagonistic kind of partner to Xbox, all the others work with Xbox, right? EA is in Game Pass, right? Like,
good point.
Before all this, right before Halo dropped, you saw interviews where Phil Spencer himself was talking up a Battlefield. Like, I saw a bunch of interviews where they were doing their best to talk up Battlefield because they had the marketing rights for that game, right? So I honestly think I see a world where, much like they're saying right now, while they're giving voice to their partners with us, we want to see them strong. The same with all the others, right? They believe that everyone can eat. They believe that we can all be in the market. We can all bring our stuff out. We want to be the king, but still doesn't mean we want to squash everyone. So I can see a world where they can work with different developers and different publishers to make sure that they don't squash each other, right? PlayStation has always been the aggressive one in the market, trying to muscle people out of the game. But the others have seemed to kind of work with each other a bit. I don't see EA pitting themselves against Call of Duty and or Halo. I don't see that happening, right? Activision Blizzard kind of was a little bit tongue-in-cheek with theirs, where when Halo dropped, they tried to drop maps to make it, hey, look at us, we're dropping maps on Call of Duty, which failed horribly, of course. But I do see a world where it becomes more of just like the movie industry these days, just like album sales that come out. They don't, those dates aren't just chosen at random. They make sure they look at the market. They look at the schedule coming out on all ends. Now, sometimes there's overlap. You can't help that. But they know that if they release the same thing the same day, they're splitting the market. Whereas if they make sure they give one release a bit of a long tail, let them eat for a while, then right at the end, you can drop yours, and then all those people will come to you, rather than splitting focus. That's what happens in all these other industries. That's what happens with movies. That's what happens with, music that gets released. I can foresee a future where that exactly is what happens as well with this. So it's not a situation where they'll step on each other. It's more of a, it's competition, because competition will continue to flourish, but they will move strategically to make sure that, hey, we're not putting, let's say, a Horizon 2 right on top of, Breath of the Wild too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I do understand that as well. So that's a great point. I was just interesting because I was thinking about that. We think about everything that's going on and all the first parties that are involved, but we don't think about sometimes the fallout. So very interesting point of view. But we want to make sure I get to Centurion as well, brother. Didn't forget about you. So I just wanted to get your point on the long term. What are we looking at? Essentially just going forward, and what is their plan going forward? What do you think happens?
I think I have a completely I don't know, I want to say different opinion than most people, but definitely. So I like looking at the gaming industry as a whole. We're starting to see movement out of Tencent and other companies that are not, or that are complete rogues from the trinity of gaming, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. We've seen for years now that Xbox and Nintendo have primarily gotten along. They've shared IP with each other. We've got Banjo over there. We put Ori over there. So there's actually a good working relationship between Xbox and Nintendo, but they've never had that relationship with Sony. This Activision purchase, I think, puts Sony on notice to the point where I think they're going to start being more open to the concept of working together. Because if we look at the broad picture here, I'm pretty sure people are going to be up in arms over this next comment, but PlayStation could not afford Activision. Plain and simple. They could not afford Activision without having to stretch the company extremely thin. So at this point, it almost benefits PlayStation that Xbox is going to get Activision. They're probably going to work out some way to keep Call of Duty multi-plat. That would probably be one of the few ones that stay that way, just because of the size of the game, the fan base that it has, and honestly, Sony's ultimate reliance for Call of Duty. And that's where Phil Spencer has said it in numerous tweets, that Sony plays a very important part to the gaming industry. And we've also heard Phil Spencer say that just because I'm doing good doesn't mean that person B has to be doing bad. So Sony does have a very important part in the industry. And I think Xbox wants to help nurture that and basically leave at least Call of Duty intact. Because could you imagine if like a Google or a Tencent bought Call of Duty? That would completely screw things up heavily for PlayStation. So I think it does benefit for the PlayStation that Xbox is actually got the money to bankroll Activision and actually work with Sony to help keep this working. And I think we're going to see a much different Sony in the long run as a result of it. We're going to see, in my opinion, creativeness actually come back to Sony. Sony has been relying, in my opinion, because I was really disappointed to hear Days Gone isn't going to get a sequel, but we hear them keep shelling out money to keep Final Fantasy Remake off of the Xbox. We see them shell out a lot of money to basically try to scoop up Marvel characters and keep them off Xbox. It seems like they're more concerned with spending money on what we can keep off of Xbox rather than what can we spend money on to creatively create something that puts us back in the limelight for the games that we're known to make. I mean, like
So
God
true.
of War was a very awesome game. I enjoyed everything it had to offer. Same with Horizon Zero Dawn. We're about to see Horizon Forbidden West. I feel like, honestly,
That game looks
Horizon,
amazing, by the way.
oh yeah, no, the game
Yeah.
looks absolutely amazing. And if you want my opinion, that is the most that game has me more excited for PlayStation right now than any game I could think of off the top of my head recently. And I don't care about Spider-Man and all these Marvel characters, because those are something that literally were created by Stan Lee. There was no creative juices flowing. It was just like, what could we do to manipulate a character that already exists to fit something for our console, where Horizon Zero Dawn was a completely original idea. And now we're going to get more of that original idea out of Forbidden West. I am looking forward to that. That is the Sony that I love. I completely loved the Uncharted series because, in my opinion, it rewrote the concept of Indiana Jones. I got into Indiana Jones. That was my new age. Indiana Jones was the Uncharted series. So I really feel that this is going to get Sony back in the ring, ready to box. They are done crouching in the grass, waiting for next gen, laying low, however they said it years ago. I really do feel that we're going to see a very different Sony as a result of this purchase, but I also still believe that Sony is going to benefit from the fact that Microsoft was able to flip the bill for this purchase, and that they're not going to see somebody else like Amazon or Google get their hands on Activision, and all of a sudden every single IP that they do becomes locked down specifically to that platform, never to be seen again. We all know Xbox is more open to sharing if the situation fits what Microsoft wants. And ultimately, the ultimate exclusive for Call of Duty is the fact that we are going to be able to play Call of Duty for our very low monthly subscription fees without having to shell out $70 for the game.
Oh, absolutely. That's huge. That's once again, and I want to bring this up before we wrap things up here. And Asante, I know you brought this up because we didn't really get to it. We didn't really get in the weeds on just the way some people have been acting. There's some people acting like they got preparation H issues right now. Like they're uncomfortable in their seats and they're wiggling around and they're not comfortable anymore. You know who you are. You know who you are. I don't need to say anything.
Indeed.
But either way, I think the play has already been made. And I said this earlier. You just highlighted what I'm talking about, Centurion, and what K. Asante was talking about. This changes nothing. The play has been made. The play was to get these companies under our umbrella. That's been done. No, the paint hasn't dried yet, but that ship is already sailed. So anything that happens after this is gravy at this point. They control the entire company. We're painting the parking lot green. They can do that. Like they got what they wanted out of the deal. So all these logistics about what goes where, that's fine for now. Mm-hmm. We got the building. You can move the furniture around all you want. I got the building.
Yeah, we own the whole deal. It's ours, you know.
Exactly.
Yes, so people can talk about how PlayStation will continue getting their revenue, but that's 33%. The other percentage is ours.
Exactly.
You know?
Like the play has been made, and I want to make sure we highlight that before we wrap this up. So ultimately, man, this was a huge week, and we didn't think. I mean, I don't think any of us, this was on any of our bingo cards as far as anything close to what happened with Bethesda happening again, especially this soon. They've done this essentially. This was a year and some change ago. We got the Bethesda announcement. Not quite 2 years ago. It's insane. So who knows where we go from here, people? It's going to be very interesting as the series of events unfold. Ultimately, I don't want to forget that the biggest win is for the people that actually work at this company, at Activision Blizzard. Those are the people that actually are getting the W here. Because that's the environment that they had to work underneath. So I want to make sure we highlight that. I get it's all fun in video games, but there's real people who I'm sure rolled over in bed and was like, oh, is this real? Like, oh my God. Like their lives have been changed overnight by this deal as well. So we can't miss that. But I think we're going to go ahead and just wrap up the show on that point. Man, it was an amazing show. Once again, chat, you guys were awesome, off the hook. Everybody was live in the chat. Shout out to everybody who hit the like button, everybody who came out and watched us. I hope you guys enjoyed the Return of the Shop podcast. We missed you guys so much the last couple weeks. So I'm very, very grateful to be doing this. I was down the last week under the weather, but I'm feeling a lot better now. So thanks once again for you guys' continued support. Shout out to everybody who came out and watched. But I want to make sure I get to my guest, K. Asante. You are a friend and a brother of mine. I greatly appreciate you coming out, brother, hanging out with us. I hope you enjoyed the show, man. It's been a great week. I wouldn't want to do this with anybody else, bro, as far as being a guest to talk about this. You're always very intelligent, very elaborate, and we all value your opinion. So once again, let everybody know where they can find you. Shout out to Everborn, Gaming Circle, but let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and I always appreciate being here, whether I'm on this side or I'm in the chat. It's always you guys are part of my ritual for the weekend, so I appreciate being invited on here. And when you don't see me next week on this side, you will see me in the chat for sure. So yes, TKO Asante on Twitter. I recently hit 1,000 followers, which I think is insane,
congrats,
which is crazy because that means people actually listen to the stuff I say. Hey, that's great. I appreciate that. I do have the Gaming Circle podcast, which I do on Saturdays with my man, Mr. Everborn Saga. We get slanderous. We have these similar conversations. We try to keep it light and airy and fun, but we like to argue like brothers. So it's always fun and interesting to be a part of as well. So, if you guys want to check me out, that's where you'll find me. You'll also find me on Primetime Gaming with Mr. Boomstick and friends. As I said, the man is so close to 10K. I'm hoping that by Monday we have some wonderful news to announce on that front. So please come check him out. He is the reason why I am doing what I am doing. I was much like many of you folks in the community in the chat. I was a man who wanted to have a voice, and he said, "Hey, get on this show and let's do something. And I caught that bug. So I will always put him on my back wherever I go. I appreciate him so much. So he's trying to get to that 10K and I want to help him get there. But I appreciate being on this show. Pong Soul, Fuzzy Belvedere, Centurion, you guys are, a king among men. We're always listening to y'all podcast and listening to the very intellectual, very interesting things you folks have to say. You keep it lively. You keep my work week flowing. Pong, I'm listening to you so many times during the week when I'm working. For sure, no doubt. I love the conversation, so I appreciate you. For Fuzzy as well. Very, very soft-spoken, but can get quite slanderous in his soft-spoken.
Oh, man.
I
Fuzzy gets messy,
that.
man.
Indeed. So, I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I will be back anytime you throw out that bat signal. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother. Once again, if you guys are a fan of the show, you guys follow what we do here at the Shop Podcast. We have the best, the most amazing followers here, subscribers as well. Just people that come out and show us mad love. But please go show the Gaming Circle, Asante, Everborn, Mr. Boom as well. Cannot forget to highlight Mr. Boom for sure. That's another great individual in the community. Does a lot for a lot of people. Please go show him some support, some love as well, man. So very unsung hero, does a lot of things behind the scenes and doesn't really, ask for any credit for it. So shout out to Mr. Boom, man. Appreciate
Seriously,
you, brother.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get to my three amigos here, man. So we're gonna start with you, Centurion. Always appreciate you here at the Shop Podcast, brother. I wasn't sure where you were gonna go this week as far as with this news, but I'm glad to see that you let it marinate a little bit. You gave some great takes today, brother. A lot of great points that I didn't even think out. I made sure I tweet out the high moon thing. I didn't even catch that. So I'm glad you brought that up with the Deadpool thing too, brother. Threw me a bone on that one. But let everybody know where they can find you, man.
No, it was an absolute blast. Sorry, I tend to drown on, especially about the subjects I get excited about.
All right.
But definitely, this is going to be an exciting time. They say the deal's going to finish up about June of next year, so we're definitely going to be in for an interesting news media for like the next year. But for those that do want to follow me, find my content in the video I dropped today, you can find me at Centurion1307 on YouTube. You can also find me at Centurion1307, Xbox Live, Twitter, and you can also find me every Saturday night right here on the Shop Podcast with these amazing gentlemen. Thank you to the guest, Kay Asante, for joining us once again. And you can also find me every Sunday night over on the TXR Podcast with Invader Gaming and the rest of the crew over there.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for always hanging out, being super consistent, providing a good take here. Shout out to everybody in the Twitch. Shout out to you, Boba Fett Gaming. He said subbed up. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you. And I want to bring up a great point because we did this, and Asante, you're probably going to laugh about this. We did this after this happened with Bethesda. For the next 4 Tuesdays, we're all going to wake up and look at our phone.
No. See, my new ritual is I'm looking at Xbox Wire because it dropped at 5 a.m. and nobody noticed.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. We did this with Bethesda. For the next 3 Mondays, everybody rolled over. It's like, what's going on? Every Monday for the next few weeks. So we're probably going to do that. But shout out to you once again, Centurion. Thank you so much for being a huge, huge, huge part of the show, brother. Appreciate your energy as well. Mr. Pong Harvey. It is a beautiful time, sir. It is a beautiful time. Oh, Speculation Town is booming right now. You guys are growing like crazy.
Right.
Oh my
right.
goodness.
Golden age of gaming. We're expanding constantly here at this.
He's
point.
no longer the mayor. He's the governor.
He's got you got a new title as well.
Everybody's getting promoted. Everybody's getting promoted around here. So what a great show. First of all, I know we're done with the topics, but just to show everybody who's still listening and may listen to this in the future, how many layers this has. We didn't even get to the technology that they now own. They've got more engines, proprietary engines, and they now own Major League Gaming.
I didn't even.
They own the MLG now, which has been on a downward turn itself ever since they signed it over to YouTube and got off of Twitch. But guess what? Esports is heating up. They just went out and bought Smash GG last year. Sony went out and bought Evo last year. There's a plan. They now own Call of Duty. They have Halo. MLG could be a gigantic thing down the road for them as well. That's just to show everybody how many layers there are to this. It's crazy. This is historic. There is no understating what this deal means. I am so happy to be able to be here with you, brothers, and be able to talk on it. Like I said, even though I've done shows all this week, hearing other opinions and perspectives is great. Kay Asante, brother, nothing but respect and love for everything that you bring to the table and what you guys are doing on your own show, as well as when you guest on other shows. I just absolutely just look up to you guys. I love both you and, of course, Everbone Saga. So thanks for being here tonight, brother. Fuzzy, Centurion, PTK, you know how I feel about you guys. And the Saturday night deal is something I look forward to every week. And this was no exception, but just with a lot more cherries on top with this whole deal. So just an awesome night. Chat, you guys were all amazing. Fantastic work in there, as always. Great to see new people hopping in here each and every week to give PTK some love and to show some love. Your support means the absolute world. And as I've been doing for the past 2 weeks, and I wasn't here last week because we didn't do a show last week, I just want to give a shout out to everybody in this community. Anybody who heard me speak about it over the past 2 weeks and heard other people speak about it, that gave some energy, gave some prayers, thoughts, however you do it, took a moment to think about Spooky Sprocket and what he was going through. And he's now out of a coma, and now he's on a long road to recovery. But thank you all for taking that time, giving that energy. The family is so ecstatic over this community. It goes to show everything that I've talked about when I jumped in this community, the big hearts, the big love that are here, the good people that are here. I can't thank you all enough for taking that time, because I spoke on it about every show. So thank you all. It's meant a lot. So continue to keep them in your thoughts, prayers, energy, whatever you do. Keep him there, because he's got a long road, but he's coming back to us. And he's a great member of this community. So thank you all for that as well. Otherwise, Pong Soul, Xbox, Twitter, you know the drill. Tuesday, I'm now off until Tuesday unless somebody hits me up. So Tuesday, Xbox Factor Podcast, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time, Double Barrel Gaming. Like Kay Asante said, Boomstick is so dang close. He deserves that 10K. So if you haven't subbed over there, please go over there and sub real quick. Again, we have a great show on Tuesdays, Xbox Factor. We're going to have probably looking at some of the IP that they can bring back this Tuesday. Again, this deal is going to be talked about for a long time, but that's going to be fun. Obviously, Mr. Boomstick's there, myself, Archimedes. We've got Mav, fun speculation, of course. And of course, we've got 3-Bit when he's available, and now Mr. Joanna Dark. So please stop by and see us there. Thursdays, PM in the PM, Pong and Mav in the PM, 2-man show over on Fun Speculations channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Join us there. We're going to have a lot more to say this week. Xbox Ultimate Friday nights, Fun Speculations channel again, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. And then, of course, Saturday mornings, Living Split Screen. Myself, my brother from another, Steel Rain. We get you set up for your weekend with some high energy, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, live, raw, and uncut, as Steel likes to say. Join us over there. Living Split Screen. Split Screen is all one word. Otherwise, I'll see you back here next weekend on the Shop Podcast. Golden Age of Gaming is here, people. Play what you love what you play, and I'm going to see you all real soon. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate you as well, Pong. Mr. Battery, Mr. Duracell, always bringing the energy to the podcast every single week. Thank you so much, brother. Once again, please go show Pong, Mav, everybody associated, Boom. Please go show them some love and support as well. And last but not least, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, how you been, brother? Let everybody know what's going on with you.
Man, oh man, this was an awesome show. So great to have Kay Asante on here and his takes on just this whole news explosion from this week. But it's always great to chat it with you, man, and with you, PTK, Pong, Centurion, my second family, guys. It's always great to talk shop with you guys. For any of those interested in my ramblings or video clips or whatnot on social media, just follow me, Fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also catch me on Mondays on Tidbits with Mav on Fun Speculations channel with the weekend reviews of all the new game releases. On Fridays with Breakfast with Boom on Mr. Boomstick XL or Double Barrel Gaming's channel. And like Kay Asante and Pong said earlier, let's get him to 10K. One of the pillars in the community. He definitely deserves your subscription. So if you haven't already checked it out, go over there and subscribe. You can also catch me earlier on Saturdays on FSP with Mav and Key on Fun Speculations channel, and then every Saturday night you can find me here with the family. So, man, it is just awesome time. Like, not to steal Pong's saying, but it's like an awesome time to be a gamer. Yeah, it's more than awesome at this point. But man, thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you, man. Always love you having you here, man. Always love you being here. So once again, chat, show Fuzz some love as well. Go follow and support him on YouTube. Everything that he's doing on Twitter as well, man. So last but not least, your boy PTK Blam. Across the board, hit me up on Xbox Live. Hit me up on Twitter at PTK Blam as well. That's where you're going to be able to find out what's going on with the podcast, when the show is happening, who's going to be the guest for that week. Poll of the week, once again, every single Monday. We didn't have one, obviously, but next week it will be returning. So we appreciate you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Go play some video games. Get outside. Love your family. Appreciate you all. Peace out.